Each of us have a dominant selling style as well as a dormant selling style.
The goal is to be balanced in all three.
Different customers need different selling styles. Everyone can improve, which is great. This is not a fixed thing. This is definitely a growth thing.
And so I was thinking about this earlier today is like, who is somebody that has all of them developed?
Jesus.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I'm calling the Jesus card on that one. That's the one. Let's talk about selling styles. Hey, and welcome to the Jason Forrest Show. I'm with my wife, Mary Forrest, and today we're talking about the 3 different selling styles. Each of us have a dominant selling style as well as a dormant selling style. So in this episode, we're going to unpack the 3 different selling styles, and we're going to help you uncover which is your dominant selling style as well as your dormant selling style. And we're going to talk about some cool stuff that have to do with your shadow self. So each selling style has some advantages. It also has some disadvantages. And we're going to do some cool stuff where we're going to talk about some different famous leaders out there, and we're going to predict and guess their selling style. And then we're going to go to ChatGPT and ask the old AI what it thinks as far as each of these different leaders and their different selling styles. We have so much to talk about today. It's going to be an awesome show. Mary, are you ready for this?
I think so.
All right. Before we go into this, though, we had some interesting kind of things that have happened this week. So you started homeschooling Elizabeth, our youngest, this year, so beginning of this year, right? And we're learning some really cool things about the homeschool education system versus the kind of the normal education system. And something we talked about this morning that I thought was really interesting is that you said something to me, and you said, Jason, if you're wanting what you're asking for, then we need to start recruiting homeschool kids and not traditional education kids. So let's talk about that. Why is that?
Well, what you said you were looking for was somebody that is a self-starter that can train themselves, that can come in and look at a situation and figure out what to do next. Correct? Is that what you were saying you were looking for in employees?
That is correct.
Okay. And so what's interesting is that I had a conversation with some homeschool moms maybe a couple of weeks ago, and one of them has a child that's a freshman in college this year. And she was talking about how a lot of her son's friends were falling apart because they had one teacher that was horrific, which we've all had that horrific college professor that doesn't really teach, talks about their own thing. And then all of a sudden you get the exam and it's not about what your professor did over the weekend, which is what they talked about. It's about the actual curriculum. And so everybody was failing. Everybody was really distraught. They didn't know what to do. And she was saying how her son was really excelling because he had to teach himself how to learn, and he had studied from books. And when he didn't understand something or she couldn't help him, he had to find other people to go and learn from or find it on YouTube. So there was no blocks to his learning. He took complete responsibility and ownership of his own learning and his own success. And so now he's in college and they have this professor who's not teaching, and he's not having a problem with it. He's doing fine. He's passing the class. And so he had started a study group where he was now teaching the other kids how to learn and teaching them the curriculum because the professor wasn't doing it, and how just amazing that was. But she was saying he had that skill because of being homeschooled. And if he had been in a traditional school where they say, here's exactly what's going to be on the test, let me teach it to you again, let me give you a quiz about what's on the test, and now just regurgitate what's on the test back to me again for the actual test, they're not set up to go into the workforce or to go into college or to go and learn and figure things out for themselves. So as soon as you told me, Mary, I think that, one of the prime things that we need to look for in our next employees is somebody that's a self-starter. That's just the first thing that came up for me, that, we need, can we put ads out there that say we want homeschool? And what's interesting is, a few years back, we made the discovery first that we didn't care about college education. I mean, that's never been a priority for us as an employer. And even as we started the recruitment side of our business, where we are hiring for so many different companies out there, it's a very few companies that are looking for a college education. Now, again, We're not recruiting doctors or engineers or lawyers or people that have to have a certain piece of paper or they need a certain level of study. But it's just not as important as we thought. So for us, the college thing went out years ago. And now, as I'm in this space of homeschooling and watching the kids that are coming out of that program, it's like, wait, maybe the less formal education the kids are having might be a better place to start for employees.
Yeah, and just to make sure everyone knows, both Mary and I are highly educated. But both of us went to private high schools. I went to public high school, and I had a private school. I call it private school top off in high school. And then you went to a boarding school and private schools, and then we went to a private university. Went to TCU, which is currently, I believe, more expensive than Harvard last time I checked, which is insane. And then I went on to American University and got my MBA in marketing. And so we're not people who did not go to college and saying that we're not sure college is necessarily worth it. We're people that went to college and went to private schools and said that we're not sure if college is worth it.
Yeah, I have such a diverse background in schooling and education, from really great public schools. I've been in great school systems, great public school systems, not so good public school systems. I went to a Catholic girls' school. I went to a secular private school. I went to a boarding school. I went to just a preparatory school. So I've been to many, many, many different types of school and growing up, just because we were moving every year. So it was required that we found a new school, and we really kept the options open to what was the right school for me and in that area at that time. And so I feel very comfortable speaking the pros and cons of schools because I have experienced all of it. Now, what I didn't experience growing up was homeschool. That was not something that was part of my life growing up, but I have that on the parent side now. So I feel like I have a very diverse background in education that I can speak to it, and I feel very comfortable doing so.
Yeah, it's so if we kind of unpack for a second the kind of the history of school. So I believe the man was named Horace. I think the guy was named Horace Mann, I think is the person who first kind of pushed to create this whole educational system that we have now. And most people know by now it was created for the Industrial Revolution to create factory workers, and which makes sense because in those days we didn't need people to think independently. We needed people to be on a conveyor belt and go from A to Z and do exactly what they're told, and we didn't need independent thinkers. At least that's what we thought back then. But the education system really hasn't changed since the Industrial Revolution, but yet we need people to be knowledge workers. We need people to be able to think independently, which is really important. And so it leads us to today, and where I had this kind of aha moment, because in our organization, we are a training company. So we are a training company first and foremost. We started the company 14 years ago and currently ranked right now number 3 in the world for sales training, number 1 in the world for sales leadership training. So we know what we're doing when it comes to behavioral change. We know what we're doing when we teach people how to think differently and speak differently and act differently and behave like a top performer. And then a few years ago, we added a sales recruiting arm as well. But the aha moment I've had is if you look at the best employees we have in our organization, the best ones were not ones that we hired as a training project. Those were the best ones. The best ones were ones that we hired that it's almost, we acted as if we weren't going to train them at all. And they just were self-starters. They just kind of jumped into the task. We gave them, of course, a job description. We gave them an outcome frame. Here's what you're supposed to do. But we didn't tell them how to do what they're supposed to do. We just kind of told them what to do. We told them why they need to do it and what their purpose was and why we hired them. And then they just succeeded. And so it's interesting to shift the philosophy of this whole concept that I said this, and that's when you said, well, we really need to start hiring homeschool kids, because the difference with it's not the human that's the issue. It's the education or the programming that's really going on, right? Because there are definitely independent self-starter people that are in the normal public school system. It's just they have to kind of fight it more. They have to rebel more. There's a great book that I read one time that I told you about that's by Robert Kiyosaki, I believe. And he said that it's like A students make great employees, and C students make great bosses, which was really great for me because I had a 2.2 GPA in high school, and so I really gravitated towards this concept. But it really reinforces what we're talking about. Is that what he was saying is that an A student in school makes a great employee because they know exactly how to follow directions. They know exactly how to memorize the information on the test. They know exactly how to play the game and regurgitate the information on the test. And so therefore they get an A in the class, and therefore they make a great factory worker. They make a great employee if our outcome frame or our definition of employee is someone who can be a factory worker, someone who can just follow directions and do exactly what they're told, but doesn't have any, again, independent thought in order to move the needle forward.
Well, and I've seen with our own children in the varied schooling and education that they've had is that when they're in traditional school, it seems like 90% of their grade is, did you show up? Did you fill out the paper that you were supposed to fill out? And did you turn it in on time? Did you write the paper? So not as much on the content of the paper, but on it. And again, this is not everyone everywhere, but more so than just focusing on the content of it. And that's learning how to think. What's interesting about, Elizabeth's schooling now, because she is homeschooled, but we are part of a co-op. And when she goes to school once a week, they're not there. They're expanding their learning, but with every single subject, they are now looking at, they're debating. Hey, we read about 3 different Americans from the past. Let's now debate who is a better American hero. And so they have to learn how to define hero. They have to learn how to study the people. Then they have to stand up and debate who's a greater American hero. They do a science project. They get up and present the science project. So everything they're doing is a presentation, a debate, or they're learning to give feedback to other people's presentations, to receive feedback. Everything that I now teach in leadership and sales classes. Hey, we have to learn how to give feedback. We need to learn how to give and take tough feedback and what's the process to do it and how to do it. And she's learning this now as a 14-year-old, where myself and the people in my classes, we're learning that as adults and doing that later. And so it's really interesting to me to look at what are the expectations. And again, this is not against teachers in traditional school. You have a ton of kids. And you've got to figure out a way to measure what they're learning. You have to learn how to grade them, and there has to be a speed element to it. This wouldn't work if you were in school every single day and you had 40 kids in a class. This works because there's 10 kids that are in there that are learning the same things and that are then studying it on their own time at home. It works in that process. So it's just interesting to me how different it is and what we're looking for. I've also noticed, I don't know if you're noticing this on social media, the more that a person puts in and says, here's this degree I have, here's this degree I have, here's this degree I have. So now what they're saying is because of these degrees, now my assumption is, or my presupposition is that now you all need to listen to my opinion because it matters. But they still state an opinion afterwards. This is what I'm noticing. The more times that I use that somebody uses their degree to validate their opinion, the dumber their opinion is going to be. It's insane. The people that don't, I mean, it's funny how many people have known you for forever, and you did give the stipulation of our education because we're talking about education. So are these people never been in school? But most people don't know the level of education that you have and the certifications that you have, or that you have an MBA. Like it's not, you don't put it in your title, you don't put it on things. I get it, for some jobs that's an important thing to do, but the more that people lead with that, the more that it's usually, I think you need to go get your money back. You're an idiot. They didn't teach you correctly. And the degree does not mean that your opinion is true or matters.
I can see the positive intention though behind the person, because they paid so much money and invested so much time, and they're in that pendulum. They're in that matrix where that's what they have to believe, because they invest so much time and energy and resources into it. Again, in my experience and our experience is especially in certain degrees like marketing, we've hired plenty of people from universities, and they've paid $200,000-$300,000 for their 4-year degree in marketing, and they can't do anything. They cannot help our business when it comes to social media, when it comes to cold campaigns, when it comes to gift campaigns, when it comes to target market. They each can't do it. And the reason for that, because I was frustrated, I didn't understand why that was the case. And the reason for that is because the bureaucracy is so stringent, so rigid, I guess is the right word, that if whatever new curriculum a school wants to discuss or wants to teach, it takes 7 years on average to get that curriculum through. So for example, let's say right now, the person I follow in marketing is Russell Brunson. I follow Alex Hormozi. These are people that I follow. There's many others, but those two specifically right now I'm following a lot when it comes to marketing. So if Russell Brunson created a book today that said, here is the way that companies can 10x their leads in the next 30 days, that content could not be taught at a university for the next 7 years. It would take 7 years to get it actually through the approval process. I'm sure some universities are faster, but it's definitely not going to be the next 30 days. They got to get it through some committee. Then the committee is going to have to approve the textbooks, and then the textbooks. I mean, it's at least going to take 12 to 24 months. Well, one of the things that we know about marketing is marketing changes constantly. I mean, it's everything's changing by the month, by the year, right? And so that alone makes it obsolete. And that was my experience too. So when I had my MBA in marketing, I learned some fundamental kind of basic marketing concepts. I knew how to create a marketing plan, and I did a lot of the fundamental marketing of the P's and product and place and positioning. But I learned more from listening to podcasts on marketing and YouTube videos and reading books by the latest book by Russell Brunson or by what Alex Hormozi is doing. They're actual practitioners in the field more than the philosophers.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I have an advertising degree, and I spent 2 years mastering Quark for the old school advertisers out there. You don't know what Quark is because it doesn't exist. I finished my Quark classes junior year. By senior year, they had changed it over because nobody uses Quark. So I graduated with a knowledge of a system that no business uses. Not a single advertising agency was still using Quark, and that was the program that I spent ridiculous amounts of money to learn and to master and to create with. And now it all changed. And then we were in, I think it changed then to InDesign. And so they did, and I will say, they did a great thing of saying, if you want to come and audit an InDesign class to learn the programming, we'll let you do that for free. But at that point, I mean, I had to take 18 hours to graduate, and all of that. There's just not a possibility for me to do that. And again, it's not, yeah, you're right. It's not the professor's fault. It's not, I mean, they're doing the best they can. And even in my situation, let's say I had learned, InDesign, that there's another level of it that comes out the next year, or people are just using Canva by that point. I mean, it's nuts how fast it all changes in today's world, that learning how to learn is more important than sometimes what you're learning.
Yeah, Canva is amazing. That's one of my go-to apps for sure is Canva. And again, you've seen my design. I'm not very good at creating design. I feel like I'm good at the visionary aspect of what I'm looking for. But there's plenty of times that I can go into Canva and use some sort of template, and it looks like I'm an award-winning designer through Canva. So you're right. The technology is amazing these days. So I would love for people to put in the comments their philosophy right now on this idea of homeschool versus traditional education. I'd love to people say what's the pros and cons of really both. I mean, of course the immediate kind of stereotype con of homeschool is the lack of people skills. That might have been the case in the 80s with the South Park jokes and so forth, but it doesn't seem like to be the case anymore. I mean, Elizabeth's in all kinds of different friend groups and social things, but we're not alone on this. I mean, there's a lot of famous people right now that are huge advocates of homeschool. I mean, there's probably more people that homeschool their kids that are kind of the top producers of the world than people who don't. So Elon Musk homeschools his kids. He has kids, multiple kids. How many kids does Elon Musk? He had these
10. Is it 10 kids?
I don't know. It's a lot.
I don't know.
10 as we know. 10 kids as we know. Also, Grant Cardone homeschools all of his children. So Definitely homeschooling is an interesting concept. So my advice for people who are not homeschooling their little children, and so we have two kids that we didn't really catch the homeschool wave with those two, and now they're about to graduate high school. So what we do with them, of course, is we're constantly pushing them to be independent thinkers and to come up with their own perspectives and their own ideas, and which is important. So.
Well, and I'd love to know people's thoughts on college and college higher learning at this point. I know because that's a huge conversation in our home all the time is college worth it? Should the kids go to college? Even if it was free, should they be there? Do they turn out better because of college? Or does college, do they turn out worse because of college? And it's not a simple answer. So I'm always interested in people's perspectives on that.
And it's a struggle with us. We have three kids right now, and two of them are about to kind of move on to that next chapter. One of our kids is going to flight school, which is great, so a trade school, not going to college. And then the middle child, we're not 100% sure with her what we're going to do, but we definitely bounce some ideas around to have her intern at FPG, and then potentially instead of spending $100,000 for her college education, is to go buy a $100,000 laundromat or some sort of kind of low maintenance business after she interns with us, and then take that and buy her a business that she can go and practice on. Because if you think about it, if we're gonna throw $100,000 towards an education, if that's the outcome frame, then why not $100,000 towards a laundromat business that if she fails, well, she learned a lot, and if she succeeds, she also learned a lot. Which I'm not exactly sure we can say that at the end of the sentence of college, that we spent $100,000, and if she failed at college, she learned a lot, and if she succeeded at college, she learned a lot. I'm not sure we can complete that sentence correctly. So that's what we're thinking about doing right now. We have a couple years to make that final decision, but definitely, yeah, I love the idea, Mary, of people putting in the comments if it works, or if you've hired some homeschool kids and your company and it was a disaster. I mean, again, I'm just trying to figure out what the right answer is, and it's probably somewhere in the middle. All right, so let's talk about selling styles. So in my book, Warrior Selling, the secret to achieving a 100% conversion rate, we first mentioned these three selling styles, or archetypes. We'll use the style or archetype word kind of interchangeably. And so what I want to do right now is I want to discuss all three selling styles, and I want to discuss the traits of each one, and I want to discuss the shadow self of each one. So there's a kind of a dark side of each one. And then we're also going to talk about how to, we have a quiz that a person can take. So they can go to fpgquiz.com right now. It'll also be in the comments below. So fpgquiz.com. It'll take you 3 minutes for you to answer questions to figure out what is your selling style, which is very interesting. And then, of course, you can share it in the comments. You can share it on social media to share with the world. So the three selling styles are: the first one is the leader. So let's talk about that one, and then we'll talk about the other two. So the leader. So the leader selling style is the visionary. The leader selling style is very authoritative. The language of the leader. So if you were to identify as the leader, the language of a leader would be phrases like "I got you," "I got you because." So it's the leader. The leader is all about following a step-by-step process. It's all about understanding where the person is, but more importantly, giving them direction as far as for where to go. What else can you say about the leader?
Yeah, when I think about the leader, I think they have a vision. They know the step-by-steps of how to get there, and then they're like, "Follow me. I've got you. Just here's the path that you follow. Let's go." And you feel very secure in that because they have direction.
Yeah, they're very assertive.
Correct.
They're very assertive in that selling style. And so what's the dark side, or what's the shadow self of a leader, or shadow side of a leader, I guess is what you would say.
I get the bossiness. of now just do this. Like, I'm not listening to what you want, but I've got direction. And so follow my direction. And the shadow side is if they're not listening enough to the people around them or to who they're leading, then they can get off in the wrong direction. Or people just might not want to follow them because they're too forceful and bossy in their way.
So we would say that the shadow side of the leader would be robotic, potentially would be a dictator. Does that sound right as well? So they would be very kind of dictatorial in their approach, kind of their way or the highway type of thing, as well as robotic or maybe not flexible. Flexible.
This is the process.
Perfect. So again, if you identify with the leader, definitely put that into the comments. So again, from a neuro-linguistic programming perspective, it's all about neuro is brain, linguistics is our speech pattern, and what's been proven is the way we speak is a window into how we think, our neuro, right? So it's a linguistic neuro. So it's a window into how we think. And so one of the things that we do, you and I do as master practitioners in NLP, is to analyze the speech patterns of people to predict how they think, which we've incorporated into our warrior selling methodology, as well as our leadership sales mastery methodology from a sales coaching perspective, and of course we've added it into our recruiting philosophy to ask certain questions of a salesperson or a sales manager to predict based upon how they respond, how they think, and therefore how they're going to feel, therefore what they're going to do in the job. So somehow to predict their future through their language patterns. And so one of the things that we know that a leader speaks with authority, and a leader uses phrases like "I got you" because the next thing we're going to do is, and so that's really their language pattern. All right. So the next selling style or selling archetype is the protector. And so the protector is, the best way I would describe a protector is they're provocatively respectful when they're doing their very best. When they're at their very best, they're a challenger. So I know there's a sales philosophy out there that we compete against. I actually believe in majority of what they teach, and that's the challenger sale. I think that's great method. A lot of sales methodologies out there I think are crap. I think they're created by philosophers and not by real practitioners. I actually endorse the challenger philosophy. I think there's a lot of really great things about it. But the protector would be probably more, in my opinion, more of that challenger type perspective. They're provocatively respectful. They are all about seeking truth, and they're all about speaking truth to people. And so the language patterns we would see with a protector is, I want to be straight with you, or I want to speak truth to you. So that's their language style. Versus again, the leader is more that it's all about authority, versus the protector is all about truth, and it's very different. Also, the protector is not afraid to talk about the competition. They're not afraid to bring up, and ask questions like, so besides us, who else are you considering? And of course, the customer is like, well, I'm considering ABC. Well, what specifically do you like about them? Well, I like that they do this, this, and this, and they're 20%, less money than you guys are. They charge 20% less. And the protector is like, oh, okay, those are all great things. And so if they're 20% less, then what has you still interested in us? Oh, well, I like you because of the following things. And so the protector is not afraid of having those tough conversations and really getting inside someone's head when it comes to what else they're thinking about and the competition, what's good about the competition, what's not good about the competition. What else? What else can you talk about with the protector?
Well, I always think about, what are they protecting people from? Like, why do we use the word protector? And so there's a couple. So you kind of alluded to, I protect somebody from their own thoughts that aren't helpful to them. So the thoughts that sometimes, especially when somebody's making a big purchase, it's like, have I earned this? Do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? Right? And those are thoughts that we need a lot of times a protector to come in and speak truth to somebody. You are worthy. You deserve this, and you can have it. You can afford it. So talking about financing, sometimes that's a tough conversation that a protector will have. We need to protect them from bad advice There is so much bad advice. And sometimes the bad advice is from somebody who loves them, but still doesn't know what's happening in the industry that you're selling in. And so they're giving them bad advice. You're protecting them against the bad advice. You're protecting them against the media that's saying, oh, this is not don't like save your money, hide it under your mattress. This isn't a good time to buy. And they need to be protected from that because we know there's so much crap on the news and there's so much nonsense. And so they're boldly going into all of those conversations and asking questions about it. They're protecting them from competitors who are going to charge less and give them less. Not charge less and give them the same, charge less and give them less. A lot of times the messaging around it doesn't show them how they're going to get less. If somebody is okay paying less and getting less and they know exactly what they're going into, great, they get to make that decision. Unfortunately, a lot of times what we'll see from competitors is like, no, it's like, it's totally the same. You're just going to pay less. And it is not. And so they need to know that. They need to know that truth. So we're also protectors are protecting them from the competition's messages that are not factual or truthful.
That's perfect. That's great. So there's a shadow self of the protector, and that shadow self of the protector is that of being very dogmatic, and so what does that mean? It means that sometimes the protector can be so overboard on their belief systems that it comes across as like too intense. It comes across as it almost makes the person feel the prospect or the person they're influencing. It makes the person feel even less than, like that. It's I don't disagree with the protector. I don't disagree with what they're saying, but it's almost like they're too much, and they don't have a place to breathe.
Well, and I think too, it's the timing of it, right? There's a good thing of having a protector in you. So for instance, I think back of how many years ago at the Builder Show where I was asked to debate other sales trainers, and they said maybe aggressive, not so kind comments about me or about our sales training or about it being too aggressive. Great. Like, come at me, it's fun. Like, now I'm going to come straight back at you as a protector, protecting my audience against your message of nonsense. There's a difference though in just meeting somebody, a prospect, and saying, let me tell you about all these other people and how terrible they are. See, there's a difference there of knowing the timing of it. But if a prospect comes to you and says, hey, I'm really considering you or this other person, or I'm not really sure which direction to go, or this product, what do I do? Okay, I'm going to speak truth to you, but there's a difference of just going in and your opening line being like, let me tell you why everybody else is the worst. So it's not being afraid of it, but when we get if somebody's overprotective and protector and they don't have the other elements of the archetype, now you can become aggressive or a jerk and it's not effective. It's not kind. It's not helpful. And so that's what I see sometimes if somebody is imbalanced with too much protector energy.
Got it. Okay, so we've talked about the leader, which is all about authority and the language of authority and the language of I got you. We talked about the protector, which is it's all about about truth and protecting people from their fears and frustrations and failures and whoever the potential enemy is. It could be the media, it could be a family member, it could be the competition, and their language is language patterns would be, I want to shoot you straight, or I want to be real with you, or can I just say it like it is? And then the last one is the servant style. And the servant style is all about empathy. And the language that they would use is I get you because, which is very different than, again, the leader, which is I got you because, or the protector, which is I want to be straight with you, or I want to be honest with you, or I want to speak truth to you. That the servant is I get you because. And it's all about really understanding the why behind what the customer is trying to accomplish. In this case, it's influence. So it has nothing to do with the customer. It's just the person they're trying to influence. So it could be a child. It could be in a relationship, significant other. It could be a friend. It could be a coworker, an employee. And it's this language of empathy. And empathy is an interesting thing, right? Empathy is I feel what you feel. It's something that that I lack a lot of, but cognitively I know what it is, and I study a lot of empathy, and I have to work hard on improving my empathy. You're laughing at me right now.
I wasn't going to say anything. This is a shock to me, everything you're saying right now.
Is it? Yeah. So, but I know it's important, and it's obviously something I continue to add resources and skills for. But what else? What else can we say about the servant's selling style?
Yeah, do you care about the person in front of you? Are you sincerely curious about them and their life or their business and what they want to do and their goals and their dreams and their fears and their frustrations? When you are genuinely curious and care about all of those things, you're in a beautiful servant mindset for them.
Got it. So what's the shadow self of a servant?
Well, to me, that's just needy guy. Like, that, your friend zone, you're needy guy. You are the doormat for them. They're going to tell you about, as a salesperson, they're going to tell you about all their problems and how terrible everything is. And you're going to feel it, and you're going to, empathize with them, but you're not strong enough in your solution giving, which is going to come from a leader's space or a protector's space. And so you allow them to go and purchase with somebody else, even though you're the one that cried with them and hugged them on the way out and all of those things, but they're not buying from you. Same as in any relationship. Like if you get in the friend zone, they're crying with you, they're talking to you, and then they're going out with somebody else.
Got it. So the friend zone of selling is if you're too much of the servant selling style.
I think so, yeah.
Or the dark side or the shadow self of the servant selling style. Perfect. Okay. So now let's bring this home. So again, I want everyone right now to think about the three different selling styles. Again, you have the leader, which is about authority, language patterns of I got you because. You have the protector, which is all about truth, and it's language patterns of I want to be honest with you, I want to shoot you straight. And you've got the selling style of the servant, which is it's all around empathy, and the language pattern would be I got you because, or again, some variation thereof. So again, if you go to fpgquiz.com, you can very quickly, in 3 minutes or less, based upon these different scripts that we've created of how different people speak or a variation of this, then in 3 minutes or less, it'll tell you exactly what your selling style is. So now let's talk about why this matters. So here's what we've predicted through our research, which I think is pretty cool, is that if you take these three selling styles and let's say on a scale of 1 to 100 right now, you were to kind of evaluate yourself, and let's say for me, so my dominant selling style is a protector, and your dominant selling style is.
I think it changes. I think in my natural state, my dominant selling style is a leader.
Got it. Okay. So these are these dominant selling styles. So I'm a protector and Mary is a leader, but let's just say you didn't know this information and you were to, on a scale of 1 to 100, you were to evaluate yourself. And so for me, for example, let's say I'm an 80 out of 100 on protector, and I am a 70 out of 100 on leader, and I'm a 20 because I'm being arrogant out of 100 on empathy on the servant selling style. So I'm being optimistic. So we would take those scores, add them up, the 80, like I said, 80, 70, and 20, and make that out of a total of 300. Well, what's interesting is that's your kind of range of these three selling styles. And what we've predicted is that also equals your current conversion rate. So what does that mean? It means that right now, different customers need different selling styles. So for example, if you have a customer in front of you right now who is needing structure, they're kind of all over the place. They don't exactly know what they're wanting, and they keep saying, well, maybe I'm interested in this, or maybe about this, or maybe my timing's about this, and they're really kind of all over the place. Well, they need the leader. They need the leader selling style to give them structure, give them order, and take them to a place they wouldn't go on their own. Or if all of a sudden that you have a person in front of you who's just kind of worried about the economy, or they're getting sucked into some con artist out there that's trying to manipulate them into buying something that's going to cost less and therefore give them less, and they're kind of sucked into that, or they're sucked into the advice of the media, or they're sucked into the advice of a coworker or a boss or a friend who's giving them the wrong advice. Well, they need the protector. The protector must jump in, and they must protect them from the enemy and get them back focused on what's important to them, not important to these other influences in their life. They're being kind of controlled by these outside influences. Almost as, we can talk about this later, but almost as Napoleon Hill, and my favorite books right now is Outwitting the Devil, and he talks about 98% of the human race are drifters, and means that they're just kind of drifting. They're just controlled by the matrix. They're controlled by the media. They're controlled by their friends and family and whatever programming is telling them to do. Well, the protector must swoop in and must get them back on track and get them to think for themselves. Well, what do you want? What's important for you and your family, not what these other people are telling you should do. This is your decision. You need to buy it. So in that situation, the protector must jump in. And then the third one is the servant. And let's say you've got a customer who is really thinking too much in their head, right? They're too rational or too logical about the decision, and they're not really thinking about what's most important to them from an emotional perspective or their individual why, what they're really trying to accomplish from a mission perspective versus from more of a versus more of a surface level perspective. And so in that case, they need the servant needs to jump in and needs to get into their why and really help them understand what they're really afraid of and what their desires, dreams, and destiny is, and really kind of work that direction and really connect with them on an emotional perspective. And so what we believe, Mary, and I love your comments on this, is that right now your conversion rate is equal to the prospects that are most in alignment or in rapport with your dominant selling style. And if you are not flexing to where the customer is in the journey, or the customer in front of you where they come into the sales process, then you're out of rapport with them, and they're going to buy from the person that is the selling style that they need in order to move the sale forward.
I agree. So you're saying, let me make sure I agree. You're saying that if somebody comes in needing a servant, they need to be heard, and they need to be felt, and they need to be understood before they can move forward. You need to be able to flex into that space and show up as a servant for them, because that's how they are coming in and what they're needing. And if they're needing a protector, that you go into your protector mode, or if they are needing a leader, that you're able to go, okay, wait, pause. This is chaotic. Here's what we do. I understand you're feeling all over the place. Here's step one to get out of it. Here's step two. Here's step three. And you're doing that based on what they need, so that you have a fully developed, mature archetype of all three. Are we on the same page?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Great.
Yeah. And so in my first book I ever wrote was called Creating Urgency in a Non-Urgent Housing Market. It was written in 2008 to overcome the housing scandal or housing problem that we had. Not scandal, there's no scandal. Maybe there was a scandal with the loans and so forth, and that's probably a scandal. But what's interesting is, like, I was very famous for teaching this concept of 3 whys deep selling. It's never the first why. So when someone's buying a house, it's not about they need more space. It's about, why do they need more space? Well, it's because they got a growing family. Okay, well, why does that matter? Well, it's because, right now they've got a baby that is in the same room as their teenager, and the baby's keeping up the teenager, and the teenager now can't sleep, and the teenager, well, what is with that? Well, the teenager is now getting bad grades, and okay, what's wrong with that? Well, now the teenager with someone with bad grades is going to probably end up, potentially doing the wrong things and drugs, and going to be in prison and all kinds of bad stuff. So, well, that really escalated quickly, but so I taught that. But what's interesting is that was me cognitively, that was me like intellectually knowing that that's a weakness of mine. And so I wanted to write about it. And I know that that's something that I needed to be better at, that during a time of uncertainty, like in the case of the 2008 housing market, people, they wanted to buy a house. It's just, we had to unleash their why. we had to make the why greater than the sacrifice for them in order to create motivation or inspiration in order to get them to say yes. And so, the concern, of course, was the economy, and the concern was what their friends and family were going to say, and the media was going to say that it was a bad decision to buy. And so, of course, I immediately started teaching this concept of we have to make the why greater than the sacrifice, and we have to get the customer to understand that. But I share that with you because that was me acknowledging something that was weak in me. That wasn't a natural thing for me to do, to stop with a person and start having this, therapeutic conversation of, well, tell me why you're really wanting a home and what's really important to you about that, and how will having this improve your life. And those are new language patterns that I now say naturally because I've programmed myself to say naturally. I can say them now because I've said them so many times. I've rewired my brain to be able to say them.
It's very interesting. What I just love that you're saying is a lot of people resist a new process because it doesn't feel natural, and no new process ever feels natural. The natural feeling is not your spirit telling you say this or don't say this. This is good or this is bad. All it's saying is you've never said it before. You have. So your whole feeling on this doesn't feel like me just doesn't matter. It has no. Change a word, but don't change the spirit of what you're saying.
Perfect. So let's talk about some famous people and just to make sure people can kind of connect the dots. And so Trump. So what selling style or influential style would you say Trump is?
I think he is, I would say that he's a leader. He has a vision, he has a plan of how he's going to do it, and he is very authoritative in that.
Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to ask ChatGPT. I actually created a little project in ChatGPT and created a little prompt in here. So we programmed ChatGPT to understand the three selling styles. We created its own little world here. So we've created. So now we're gonna ask it. We're gonna ask it these different things. Okay.
You do know that as you do this into ChatGPT, I will be grading ChatGPT on how close it answers to me. I will not be grading myself.
Okay. Let's see.
On what ChatGPT says.
What is the selling style of Trump? And so again,
wait. You have to say something too. Do you agree with me?
No, I agree with you. Okay. Well, yeah, I would say he's definitely a leader. And I would say he definitely says some very provocative things, and he's very much into protecting people from the government and kind of overstep, and so I would definitely say that he.
So what we're both saying is that we would not put his as empathy and servant.
No. We definitely know he's not a servant. He definitely doesn't have that selling style in him, or he's like me. He has to really pay attention to that.
Well, I think he has it. I just think
yes,
right.
It's very dormant. It's very dormant. So again, we're talking about dominant selling styles versus dormant. So each of these three selling styles are in each of us. So again, I have empathy in me. I just have to cultivate it. It's like going to the gym and doing leg day. Most people don't want to do leg day, and so their legs get dormant. But if you keep working your legs out, then they'll be stronger. So if you have a selling style that's dormant, it's like your legs that you don't work out. You just gotta work them out.
So would you think that a salesperson, they're going to work out, they're going to grow up in the selling style of the manager? Like, will the manager have influence over them? Will the company, are there certain industries or companies that are going to create more leader salespeople, some that will create more protector, and some that will create more servant? It's like a nature versus nurture sales baby scenario.
Yeah, I've never thought about that until now. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I definitely think that a lot of, I think managers 100%. So we're going to learn a lot through the training manual of the company, as well as kind of observing the selling style of the person, and then as well as the different sales trainers that are out there. So for example, there's a lot of kind of relationship oriented sales training out there that's going to be pushing a lot of the servant selling style, and so if a person's kind of only selling that way, well, then again, you're missing 2/3 of the prospect population right now. Or if you're the challenger, again, the great thing about the challenger is it's very protector like, which I like because that's me. But But the downside of the Challenger is that it's very kind of off-putting for a lot of customers because, again, it doesn't really have a lot of empathy. It doesn't know empathy, actually, in the Challenger methodology. And it doesn't really create order. It's if you read anything about the Challenger, it's about just go in there and start kind of pissing people off. So it's like about being super provocative and disrupting patterns, and which again from NLP is great, and that is definitely a way to go about it. But it needs to be balanced. If the Challenger could balance the concept with the servant and with the leadership selling style, then again it would create a more well-rounded selling system, which is called warrior selling, by the way. So that's what we've done with create all three selling styles in one methodology.
Yeah, and I think we really thought about that with our clients that had been with Challenger in the past, and they moved over to warrior selling, and they were like, wow, this is everything we liked about Challenger, except for we don't feel like jerks all the time. I was like, oh, okay, can we use that as an advertisement? Like that's this new tagline, like the dominance or the directness of Challenger without being a jerk. Warrior selling. There we go. That's my advertising degree for you right there.
I love it. Okay, so here's what ChatGPT says. You ready?
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So ChatGPT says the primary style of Trump is the protector, and the secondary style of Trump is the leader.
Interesting.
So that's interesting. So
ChatGPT is so close on being correct.
So it says here, Trump uses language that highlights external risk and positions himself as the one who will protect and fight. I mean, he has that incredible picture that made Time magazine of him obviously staying up when he got shot and just immediately raising his fist up and saying he's going to fight. He builds trust by acknowledging fears and framing himself as the solution. His secondary style as a leader, it says Trump reinforces his authority, vision, and ability to get results, presenting himself as a confident, decisive guide. It's very interesting. Very interesting. So this is interesting too. It says the combination resonates with audiences who seek reassurance, safety, and bold leadership, which are hallmarks of both the protector and leadership styles, which is very fascinating because he just got elected. He just got elected, and that does say it's an interesting concept. Not saying who we voted for, but it's interesting to say that's where America was, I guess, at the time, right? At the time that they voted for Trump, they were looking for reassurance, safety, and bold leadership. That's what they were looking for. I think that's
truth. I mean, I see that on the truth. People are very tired of being lied to.
They want the truth. Yeah, they want the truth. So let's look up what is the selling style of Kamala. What do you think about that? What would you guess? Servant. Let's see what it says. Okay, this is interesting. So I didn't do my own, so I already saw the answer here. Okay, so hers is interesting. So she actually is the protector servant.
Ugh, false. I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
So
because I don't see the protector, but I do. I mean, her language style to me is about like who she's helping, who she wants to help, and who is being oppressed that she wants to not be oppressed. That empathy side of it, I think, is the language pattern of her script writers.
Got it. So you don't think that's really her? You think that's her script writers?
Well, I don't know that anybody knows her, but
got it. So,
and I would say that for most politicians except for Trump. I mean, I think he's not wrangled in, so whatever he says is his.
Yeah.
For most other politicians, whatever they say is their scriptwriter's thoughts.
Yeah. Which we can speak for, because again, both our backgrounds are in neurolinguistic programming, which is the governing body of hypnotherapy and advertising and ad copy and of course
script writers.
So both of us, for example, if this gig that we have owning a training recruiting company doesn't work out, then we could get hired by politicians to write scripts that they read on a teleprompter that has the greatest probability of influencing their constituents, their audience, right? Okay. So, but it does say, this was interesting. It says that the combination, because I think what's interesting is the combination of the two.
Which is a cop-out, because the answer is which is their dominant. That's why ChatGPT just failed at this one. What is the dominant? And so ChatGPT gave you 2 back, which is again why I win. 2 points Mary, 0 points ChatGPT.
Got it. So it does say though that protector because she fights for justice, addresses again, this is regardless of what we believe is true or not, right? It says fights for justice, addresses risk, protects the well-being for her audience. That is her campaign. I mean, that's technically true. We don't know if that's what she actually believes. There's authenticity in that, but that is what her campaign is to do that. And their secondary style is aligns with the needs of the people, and it's about empathy, listening, commitment for the greater good, right? So that's it. Okay, so let's do another one.
Okay.
So who's someone you want to do? Who's someone comes up? How about How about Mr. Beast? Let's see. What is the selling style of Mr.
I don't know
Beast?
that I can answer this one because I think I've seen like two. I mean, I'm not 14, so I've seen maybe 2 Mr. Beast videos in my life. So I have no idea.
I'm gonna say leader. We'll see. Survey says, servant. Interesting. So his primary selling style is servant. His videos focuses on selflessness. He's all about understanding the customer. For example, is giving away $1 million for people who are in need. He literally uses language that says like, I want to help as many people as I can, which is really interesting. And he's very audience centric in his approach. And of course, he has this secondary style of leader, which is all about revolutionizing YouTube content, solving big problems like food insecurity. He has this philanthropy that he pushes constantly about planting 20 million trees and setting trends. And but anyway, so that's the combination of the servant style, and then secondary is the leader. And it says it makes him one of the most trusted, admired, influential figures in the creator space. There
cool.
You go. Yeah. Maintaining a humble, service-first mindset. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the goal, right? The goal is to be balanced in all 3. The goal is how can I have a fully developed leader, a fully developed protector, and a fully developed servant? And so I was thinking about this earlier today is like, who is somebody that has all of them developed? I'd be interested. I mean, can you think of anybody that you would say like they have all of them?
Jesus.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I'm calling the Jesus card on that one. That's the one. He won.
Okay. Yes. Leader, servant, protector. Yes. Okay. Well, now it's like hard to say anybody else because now you're putting him on the same like level as Jesus.
Okay. Well, so if you're not, besides Jesus as a God, as a normal mortal human, who would you say is close to balancing all 3?
So who I was thinking about as a balance of all 3, I was thinking Rip.
From Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Okay. So at first I was like, who is Rip? And then I was like,
you know who Rip is.
Well, I did, but I was thinking in our universe that we're in right now.
Well, I mean, the universe that I live in most of the time is Yellowstone.
Got it.
And the worlds of Taylor Sheridan is a lot of where I am. But I was thinking about that because I was thinking, like, who is somebody that people are drawn to? And I mean, so if you look out, right, the amount of memes and things of the attraction to Rip, and I think part of that is because he is showing this balance of all 3 of them. And so men, women, children, pets, horses, everyone is attracted to that because he has all 3. I mean, he has direction, the step-by-step how to do it, and people follow him, right, in the show. He is clearly a protector, right? I mean, anytime somebody is getting hurt, something's happening to them, you're just waiting for the moment that Rip comes in, and he's going to take him to the train station. That's what a protector does. And then the servant side of he cares about the people that he cares about his cowboys. He cares about his wife. He cares about the family. And also the servant of he can do all the things. He's not the leader. He's not somebody that just kind of barks the orders at people. He will get in and do it. He can do all of the activities. And so for those 3, I think he's really well balanced. And that's why he's become such a popular character.
You're right. I mean, and Yeah, I don't want to give away too much on even the last episode.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Second last episode, but you're right. I mean, he had tremendous empathy. He had tremendous empathy in that episode. You're right. I think that's.
And I think you can see it through the entire series,
Sure,
though,
yeah,
that these levels of him really feeling for people and doing what's right for them, even if it wasn't the easiest thing for him to do. If it was better for somebody else, then he was willing to do that.
Interesting.
So I think that's really, so yes, we have people that have the dominant, we all have a dominant, but it's in growing that. And I'd be interested in other characters or people that people are incredibly drawn to. Is maybe that's because they're balanced. Maybe that's because they are the true warrior. They have all three.
My mind's blown right now. So now
That's what I do.
Yeah. All right. So Jesus is a great person to admire.
Jesus and Rip.
And then if for some reason you're not into Jesus, then you could go for Rip.
Yeah, I think it's a great order.
Okay. All right. What about Patrick Bet David? What do you think his selling style is?
So that's a good one. The first thing that comes up for me from what I've seen of him would be leader. I know he has so much success in so many different businesses. But one of my favorite stories I ever heard about him was a different podcast. And the gentleman was talking about, I can't remember if he just got out of prison or rehab. And he knew the person that he was going to call that was going to not make him feel bad, that was going to take him in, that was going to help him out, was going to be his friend, Patrick Bet David. And he just talks about the empathy that he had, and he sat there and talked to him and helped to get him on a different path. So I guess it's still some leader, but there's definitely a lot of empathy in him as well.
Yeah. So whenever I hear that, it also makes me think of the protector, because to me, to be a protector, you have to have a little like dose of empathy. So it's like if you're too much, like if you're it's almost like the protector in some cases is like the hybrid between the leader and the servant, like meaning that if you because if in order to be challenging, in order to well, if you're super challenging but you don't have any empathy, then you'll come across probably too dogmatic. That'll be like your shadow self. But if you can add in that empathy, then it's I'm now protecting you from your own insecurities, but I'm able to know you well enough that you're going to be able to hear me and you're able to get me.
Okay, so a healthy protector has to have a dose of empathy in it.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Okay,
all right, well let's see what ChatGPT says. So in this case, it says the primary style is a leader, and the secondary style is the protector.
All right.
But I love some of the quotes that he has here. In order to be, again, this is kind of cool. In order to be the leader, his decisiveness, his quotes are: "Stop waiting, execute your plan now. If I can do it, so can you. Success is a choice. Here's how I built a multi-million-dollar business. You can too." But then on the protector side, some of the language that he's been said to say as well, which is around the protector, is most businesses fail because they don't have a plan. Let's fix that. So he's being more aggressive. Here's the top 5 reasons entrepreneurs fail. Don't be one of them. Again, more of that protector side. I'm here to help you win and protect your dreams. I mean, they're just kind of jumping on that one. That might have been too easy for you there, ChatGPT, with that one. It's interesting. All right. What about let's change up a little bit. What about good old Elon?
Okay, so Elon, to me, I'm going to go protector for Elon, because when you talk about like all of the things, why he does the things he does, it's usually to protect somebody. He's like, oh, there's people floating around in outer space. No worries. Like I'll get them. Like I can take care of this. Or there's not, we need satellites over Ukraine. No problem. Like, let me protect this people. Even when he talks about why he decided to purchase Twitter and change it to X, was because he says he wanted to protect the freedom of speech. So I think he uses a lot of protector language, and he definitely justifies his actions, I would say, from the space of wanting to protect either a value or a group of human beings.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. So let's see what ChatGPT says. So ChatGPT says Elon his primary is a leader and his secondary is a protector. That's what it says.
Okay, so they said leader?
They said leader first, protector second. And you and I are saying protector first, leader second, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So some of his leadership language that he uses is, we're going to Mars, accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. We must become a multi-planetary planetary species. I mean, that's definitely very visionary, like directional leadership language, which is great. Now, on the protector side, though, he says stuff like, we need to become a multi-planetary species to ensure humanity's survival.
Correct. So I think it's the intention behind it. So yes, does he have direction? Of course. Nobody gets to that level of success without direction, but it's their why. What's the justification? What's the why? So I'm doubling down that you and I are correct and ChatGPT is wrong.
So here's some other things that he says. Tesla is about protecting the planet for future generations. I am concerned about AI being a major threat to humanity. We need safeguards. I mean, that's definitely the big thing for him there.
Do you feel weird right now that you're reading that quote from an AI source?
A little bit, but what's interesting though is, so he was actually a part of the initial funding of ChatGPT or OpenAI, and then he disagreed with how ChatGPT's leadership was taking it, and he was concerned about the direction that it was heading, and so he actually pulled away from funding ChatGPT in the very beginning, and now he is creating his own version, which is Grok.
I had no idea about any of that.
Yeah, that's what he's doing because of that protector in him, because he's concerned about the Terminator. He's concerned about
as am I, Elon.
as we all are. So he's concerned about that. So he's definitely jumping in to try to fix that problem.
I'm not even comfortable with you using ChatGPT right now.
Got
honestly.
It. All right. Well, we're gonna work through that. So, and then of course his whole protector concept. I mean, he believes in freedom of speech, but he spent billions and billions and billions of dollars and way overpaid for X, Twitter at the time, for freedom of speech. So freedom of speech cost him billions, which is interesting. But that's all because of that protector in him that's so strong.
I like when you agree with me, you will take what ChatGPT says and then like change it to support us. But when you disagree, you read the other ones. I'm just pointing that out.
Okay, well, it is what it is. All right, and then let's do one last one. So, what about Brené Brown?
Oh, I think she's the most brilliant example of servant that there is. I mean, look at the titles of her books. She's
Power of Vulnerability.
Right. Yeah. Her TED Talk on that. Clear as kind. She has so much on empathy, so much on understanding where somebody is coming from. And then even think about like her content, I believe she gives it all away for free now, right? Online.
I didn't know that. It's awesome.
Well, I think so. I think, there was that time in the little speaker conference circuit where I think we happened to be at all the same thing. We saw her like 4 times in that year because we were speaking at all the same conferences. And I remember her, if it wasn't at that time, she was saying soon or at one point that she wanted to give her research and her everything away, that you can just go on. And if you want to learn about vulnerability and you want to learn about that, then you can go do that. But that's a very servant style as well, right? I just want to make sure that people have our content.
All right. Well, let's see what it says. Yep. So ChatGPT says that she is a servant first, and then a leader second. So language examples: vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. Empathy fuels connection. It's feeling with people, not for them. That's a huge servant thing. I'm going to read that again. Empathy fuels connection. It's feeling with people, not for them. Feeling
with people, not for them. I love it. Yes, I agree.
Which is similar to what we said earlier with that whole empathy is I get you, but empathy is to feel what you feel. That's what empathy is. And empathy's tough. I remember you and I had a conversation one time with a child therapist, and he actually said that to be a really, really good therapist, you have to have maximum empathy, which means you can only have 2 patients a day. And he said, and we were like, what? Why is that? And he said, because you feel what they feel. So you're feeling the stuff, you're feeling what they're going through in order to truly connect with them and be one with them. And he said, so I can only handle a couple people a day because I'm like one with them.
I mean, I can see that. There's definitely a difference in my energy at the end of the day when I'm working with a company that is number 2 in their industry and they're like, oh man, we've been number 2 for 6 years. We want to be number 1. then when somebody comes and I'm working with a business owner that is running out of cash, running out of ideas, and is about to go under, and they're coming to us in desperation, right? I feel the difference just in those spaces at the end of the day.
But that's because your empathy is way more dialed in. Is that what you mean? Like you're more of an empath than I am.
Well, honey, I think everyone's more of an empath than you are.
Okay.
But no, yes, because I do. I genuinely, and I tease you on that, but I genuinely feel if I am talking to a business owner who is in fear or they are scared, I think I do a good job of not going totally into that place with them, but I do feel it. I'm not going to stay there with them because that's not helpful. That's not a resourceful place to be, but I definitely feel it.
Interesting. So I think in future sessions and future episodes, we need to discuss each one of these and how to improve each one of these. That needs to be the future one, because I think everyone would love to know how to improve their language of leadership, how to improve their language of the protector, the language of the servant. I think that's all stuff we should talk about. Okay. Very interesting stuff. All right. So to wrap this up, there's so many things that we talked about today. So number one, we talked about that each of us have all three selling styles in us, even though one of them might be dormant. We just need to put some effort towards it. So even myself, I can improve my empathy. I can improve my empathy points by putting effort towards it and practicing feeling what other people feel and building more of that contact and that connection. Just like other people who have the servant as their primary can improve their ability to be more authoritative and to speak more from truth and to be more courageous in that area. So everyone can improve, which is great. This is not a fixed thing. This is definitely a growth thing. Just like Carol Dweck says from her amazing study at Stanford on growth mindset, this is a very malleable thing that people can do. Agree with that?
I do. And at the beginning, of today, you started talking about we listen to their language patterns to figure out the brain, right? The linguistics to tell what's happening in the neuro. But it works in the flip, which is what you're saying too, is if I am feeling a lack of empathy, I can use words and my linguistics. I can change my patterns in what I'm in my speech that will then change the neuro that will also go the other direction and change the way my brain is wired and works.
Well, that's phenomenal. You're right. That's a total NLP thing, and that's an incredible thing for us to point out that. Yeah. So one of the things that like Amy Cuddy says is that you can fake it till you become it, which is a phenomenal concept. And so what you're referring to here is you're right. You can start using the language. So a person right now who's a servant, they can start just using the language of I got you because, and you can count on me because, you can trust me because. The next thing we're going to talk about is you can start using that language pattern, and a servant can start adding more of that leadership selling style to themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what I did. I mean, I definitely was naturally am more on a leader. I like a process and a structure, very A-type. Some might say tightly wound. I definitely love learning about other people, and I do have a lot of empathy for other people, but saying truth in that conflict and confrontation is what it felt like to me sometimes to speak the truth to people, and that would feel very uncomfortable. So I know at the beginning of doing it, it's like, okay, I have to say this, and the words would come out of my mouth, and then on the inside I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just did that until, right? And then that repetition, it then goes, oh, okay, I can say that. And it is loving and it is the kindest thing to speak truth to people. And I can marry it that way. But that doesn't mean the first time that I gave somebody a tough piece of feedback or corrected something that I didn't, I wasn't cringing inside of like, this is so uncomfortable. But now I'm fine with it because I've done it so many times. So it was the pattern of my language changing that then changed it where it's now very simple for me to go into protector, but it was not for a very long time.
It's great. Okay. Love that. I know Amy Cuddy will be very proud of you for
I have watched Amy Cuddy's TED Talk probably 30 times in my life. So I hope she would be proud. I would want to make her proud.
She'd be very proud. Okay, so again, we talked about people can improve their dormant through several things. So one obviously is through actually acknowledging it, but also now practicing these different language patterns to improve themselves and start working it out. And then we also discussed the importance of just noticing where the customer is in the journey, and that the customer needs a different selling style to get over whatever they need to get over. So they might start off needing the leader because they're all over the place and they need structure, and then they might transition to really being one with them and connecting with them and feeling what they feel, and they need that servant to really help them understand their true buying motive and their why behind what they're trying to accomplish. And then you might need to round out with the protector to really help close the deal and to get them to take action fast before they're going to miss out, or to protect them from listening to the media or the government or the competition that's trying to manipulate them or tell them to not do something that's in their best interest. So we talked about so many things today. So right now, just to kind of finish it up, tell me something that a salesperson can say, do, or think about in order to improve themselves in their selling style.
Well, the first is to do a self-analysis or take the quiz, or both. I think is probably better. I think about which one you are first, and then take the quiz and see how it lines up. In order to know what your strength is, and to also know where are you most dormant, which one is a little bit less comfortable for you, because the key is to be balanced, to have each one of them as a really strong muscle, and that way you're able to go in different directions. And so first is just the awareness of where you are.
Thank you.
Yes. So Jason, tell me something that a salesperson can say, think, or do in order to strengthen their archetypes.
I think the most flexible element in any system controls the system. So the more a salesperson can just be willing and able to, again, to bend and to flex with the customer in front of them, with the different decision makers in front of them, with where the customer is in the process, the more they can do that, then the more they can control the system. They can control their outcome of what they're trying to accomplish.
Thank you.
All right, tell me something that a salesperson can say, do, or think about in order to improve their selling style.
The easiest way to balance leadership and protecting someone is by first really understanding them and knowing what their mission is, what their goals are, what their fears are. And so if we can add a little bit of servant at the beginning, then you have a better chance of a really balanced leadership style and protector style.
Thank you.
So what is something that a salesperson can say, do, or think in order to improve their selling style?
Step one, go to fpgquiz.com and take the quiz. Step two would be to have a discussion. Have other people take it. Have their spouse take it. Have their coworkers take it. Have friends and family take it, and just have a conversation. Just bring awareness to your own selling style, and then the selling styles of other people around you, and then start to kind of notice that. So when you start noticing and bringing awareness to it, then you'll start to kind of take action towards improving in those areas.
Thank you.
All right, one last one. Tell me something that a salesperson can say, do, or think about in order to improve their selling style.
They can start noticing the selling style of salespeople that are around them. We come in contact with so many salespeople on a weekly basis. And so start listening to their language patterns, start listening to the things that, the way that they're selling you, because when you can see it in other people, it also helps you start to be able to see it in yourself.
That's perfect. All right. Okay. So some great action items for people today. Definitely go to fpgquiz.com, take the assessment, put in the comments. I would love to hear in the comments your comments on today's show, as well as the comments around your selling style. I'd also like to hear if people's selling style, like if they think that is their selling style. Like it'd be interesting, like what they think it is, and then they take the quiz, and then is that correct? And then sometimes it's fun to ask other people. You might You might ask other people that know you really well, do you agree with the results? Do you agree with the results of the selling style, which I think is interesting concept as well. So so many things to talk about, so many things to get feedback on. So I look forward to hearing everyone's comments. All right. Until next time, this is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.